Good morning, students. I am Dr. M. Sendil Kumar, Professor and Head, Department of Automobile Engineering, Bharat Institute of Higher Education and Research, Mbaihar, Chennai. Now, in this video, we'll see a topic under the subject U18 PC AU 501 Automotive Transmissions meant for 5th semester BTech Automobile Engineering. Now, we'll see about the another important transmission type system called the hydrostatic drive or hydrostatic transmission system. Now let me play a video first. In that I'll be explaining about the working principle of the hydrostatic drive. Now this diagram shows this unit is called the pump. This is called the swash plate. This swash plate direction can be changed this way or that way. This is the motor actually. Uh, this angle, this swash plate angle is fixed. This cannot be adjusted in the motor side, but in the pump side, the swash plate angle can be adjusted by moving this lever, the knob provided in the lever. If you change this one, you can set and change the angle of the swash plate. Then the next point is, you see it has a number of plungers, or I can say a piston. Here also you have pistons, here also you have pistons. Say the piston, number of pistons may be 6, 8, 9, 10, 12 or something. Okay. Again, this particular segment shows how the hydraulic fluid is being pumped by the pump, and how it returns from the motor. So now, as per this diagram, you see that it is circulating in the clockwise direction. That means the swash plate is in the right extreme position, knob is in the right extreme position. So then the input shaft rotates at a clockwise direction, means this will be rotating the clockwise direction. So that is the arrangement. Okay. Now let me play the video. Now you see the input shaft rotates. All this swash plate is rotating. Now I am changing the angle, varying the angle. Depending on the variation of angle, the speed, output speed will be varied. Output speed will be varied. Now you see the circulation is in the clockwise direction. That is, if this is clockwise, this is also clockwise. Input speed is clockwise, means output speed is also clockwise. Now I put the lever in the right extreme, so that the speed will be whatever speed it rotates, same speed, rotation speed, RPM, you will get it in the output shaft. So this is how the hydrostatic drive is functioning, and you can Google it by typing the keyword called the swash plate. Now let me move the lever in the extreme left position. Let's see what happens. Now you see the flow, hydraulic fluid flow. Previously it was clockwise. Now you see it is in anti-clockwise direction or counterclockwise direction, because we kept the lever in the left extreme position. So then the input shaft rotates in the clockwise direction, but the output shaft is rotating in the anti-clockwise direction. Now it is clockwise direction. Suppose if I keep the thing in neutral position, then you won't get any rotation here, you won't get any flow here. So this is how the hydrostatic drive is working. Now we'll see another type of hydrostatic drive as per the syllabus, called the Janney hydrostatic drive. Let's see the construction and working of the Janney hydrostatic drive. It is basically a hydraulic transmission type of system known as Janney, which has been built by the company called Waterbury Tool & Co. It is meant for various industrial uses. It is not only used in automobile, It is used in other machineries and other machines also. Especially this kind of hydrostatic drive is used in motor trucks, heavy vehicles, railway diesel locomotives, uh, the vehicles which are used in mines, dumpers, loaders, and military tanks. Uh, the JCB bucket type excavators are all uses the hydrostatic drive. You don't think that, see, generally you know that mechanical means the power is transmitted either through shaft or through chain or belt or a pulley type of a V belt type of a thing. But those are all mechanical type of transmission system. But this is purely working on the hydraulic principle. So then you can easily control the entire power transmission thing in a better way. But some efficiency loss will be there because there are many conversions. First, the entire IC engine energy you are converting that into hydraulic energy, and then you are again converting the hydraulic energy back into the rotational energy at the wheels. So because of too many conversions, you have some transmission losses naturally, but it can be easily controlled. Now let us see the parts which are coming under uh, the Janit hydrostatic drive. It has number one, pump. The pump has 9 cylinders, axially disposed, variable stroke, swash plate type. That's what I said in the initial video. It's a swash plate type of setup actually. So it has 9 cylinders, 9 pistons maybe. I can say piston or a plunger. And it is axially disposed, variable stroke, equally spaced. Then the next member is the motor. Again, this also has 9 cylinders, same as the case of the pump. So 9 cylinders, again axially disposed, swash plate type with a constant stroke, because here the pump can be have a variable stroke because you want to vary the speed or bring it to neutral or reverse the speed. So that means the stroke must be varied in the pump, but not in the motor. It's a fixed one, it's a constant stroke. So then once you get the variable one here, naturally you can vary the speed by changing the plate position in the pump. So then you will get the output with a variable speed or variable load. Okay, a longitudinal section through the whole assembly is shown in the figure. I will show you the figure in the next slide. Practically, the only difference between pump and the motor is the pump inclination of the swash plate is adjustable. That's what I said. You see, variable stroke. Whereas the motor swash plate is not adjustable. That is a fixed one. Referring to the drawing, both the pump and the motor unit have central shafts which project at one end only. Each shaft is supported by plain bearing, generally roller bearing, in housing and roller bearing in the wall plate. To the inner end of the shaft is keyed. So then whenever the swash plate rotates or the entire setup rotates, you will get the rotation in the output. A cylinder block in which there are 9 bores forming the working cylinder. The bores are parallel with the axis of rotation and equally spaced around it. So the equally spacing is also important thing, because if it is equally spaced, then only the entire setup is totally balanced. If it is not balanced properly, the fluid pumping from the pump side is improper. Then fluid fluid energy supplied in the motor unit is also not constant or equal. So then you will have a unequal kind of a jerk in the hydraulic power transmission. That is why all the 9 cylinders must be equally spaced along the out in this 360-degree periphery. Now let us see about the diagram. This is the Jani hydrostatic drive diagram actually. Uh, in the right hand side is the pump, left side is the motor, that is right side is the input, left side is the output. Now here there is a control lever. By using this lever you can change the swash plate angle in the pump unit either in minus 20 degree or the plus 20 degree. But in the diagram, as per this diagram, the swash plate is in vertical position, meaning neutral position. So then you see this is the plunger. The hole is the cylinder and the pin is the plunger or the piston, I can say. So no pumping action is taking place because the plate is vertical. The plate is vertical. Let's see the other parts. Now you see here there is one roller bearing that supports the input shaft. Here another roller bearing that supports the output shaft. And the center plate is called the valve plate. These pins I can call a connecting rods. So nine cylinders, 9 plungers, 9 connecting rods. So that is what the arrangement is. The entire setup is housed in a casing which is hermetically sealed, so no leakage should happen. If there is any leakage, then directly there is a power loss. So power loss should not happen. So the casing should be very pakka one. So then there should not be any leakage. Then this plate, this flash plate is permanently fixed at some angle actually. This angle is fixed. This is not a varying one. Uh, just if you keep this in some angle, then only whenever the pumping action take place, then because of this angular position, this can have a kind of a rocking motion. Because of this rocking, you will get the rotation in the output shaft. So that is the logic actually. So this is how the Jani hydrostatic drive has been designed and framed in such a way that the pump unit swash plate is can be altered by using this control lever, and the output shaft is kept at an in the motor unit. The swash plate is fixed at an angle, but that angle is fixed. That cannot be changed or that cannot be altered. So, this is the arrangement. Now we'll see the working of the Jani hydrostatic drive mechanism. When the cylinder block revolves, when the cylinder block revolves, the cylinder head slides against the wall plate. When the cylinder block revolves, the cylinder head slides against the wall. That is, here I call this as a cylinder. When it's cylinder, it's against the wall of this one, a swash plate, right? So a port in each cylinder head registers alternatively with 2 annular port in valve plate for admission and delivery of oil respectively. So there are 2 ports. One is maybe like a inlet port and outlet port as you have in the 2-stroke engines, in inlet port and transfer port, something like that. Those things are controlled by the valve plate by admission and delivery of oil, that is suction and delivery of the oil. If the suction and delivery of the oil happening, then only the pumping happens. Once the pumping started happening, you will get the rotation in the output shaft. Otherwise, you won't get the rotation. Each port extends over approximately 125 degree, and since there is port opening from the time the cylinder port begins to register the valve plate port to the time it passes out the registry, therewith So admission and delivery of oil respectively. That is why the pumping happens, then only the motion output to shaft can be rotated. Each port extends over approximately 125 and since there is port opening from the time the cylinder port begins to register with the wall plate port to the time it passes out of registry, therewith port opening extends over nearly 180 . The spring surrounding the shaft serve as presses the cylinder block against the wall plate when no load is transmitted. That is the spring surrounding the shaft, that is these are the springs. This is the one spring, this is another spring. The spring surrounding the shaft serves and press the cylinder block against the wall plate when no load is transmitted. During transmission of power, the fluid pressure keeps all parts in close contact. So during the transmission of power, the fluid pressure keeps all parts in close contact. The cylinder block is so mounted on the shaft that it can slide thereon. Here is the cylinder block. Okay. So shaft can slide thereon and also it can rock slightly. This enables the block to sit correctly on wall plate even if there should be any slight misalignment or if wear should have occurred. That is the arrangement. So it is mainly kept such that so that the blocks can seat, the walls can seat correctly without any misalignment, and even if there is a minor wear and tear, that is been taken care of. Okay, if the angle box is set of right angles to the shaft, there will be no reciprocation of the plunger. That is, if the plate is vertical, that's what I said, this plate is vertical, then there is no reciprocal motion of the plunger or the valve. So there will be no reciprocal plunger in the cylinder when the cylinder block is revolving. Consequently, no oil is moved. So when there is no oil is moved, so no pumping action, so you won't get the rotation in the output shaft. When the angle box is set to make the angle with the shaft, the plunger begins reciprocate and the cylinder as they revolve around in the block. So when the angle box is set at an angle, then only the plungers starts reciprocating. So pumping action start taking place. So each cylinder draw oil through the port in wall plate during one half of the revolution and delivers oil through delivering port in wall plate during next half revolution. That is, one rotation is split into two. That is, let me show you. Suppose say this is one half, this is another half. In one half, it draws the oil from the pump. This side, when it comes, it delivers the oil to the pump. So that is the arrangement. So then the hydraulic fluid is being circulated and the rotation is happening in the output shaft. If the angle plate of the pump unit is set to same angle that of the motor unit, sorry, go ahead. Yeah, the motor unit is merely an inversion of the principle of the pump unit. Of course, we said the pump is pumping the fluid, motor is receiving the fluid pressure and it acts as a motor. That is the only difference. Otherwise, it is quite opposite of the pump actually. The inversion of pump is motor, the inversion of motor is the pump. Oil entering through the cylinder under pressure, forcing the plunger outward and reaction between socket ring and swash plate causing cylinder block and its shaft to revolve. If the angle plate of pump unit is set to the same angle as that of motor unit, then the motor will turn the same speed as pump unit and any speed lower than this can be obtained on motor shaft by merely reducing the angularity of the angle box. That is, if the angle plate of the pump unit is set to the same angle as the motor unit, that is, you go back, you see the motor plate is set at an angle, say here it is mentioned as 10 degree, no? if you keep this plate, this fast plate of the pump same as this 10 degree, then whatever input shaft speed, suppose say the input shaft speed is say 1000 rpm, same rotation speed you will get in the output shaft. That is what is given here. If the angle plate of the pump unit is set to the same angle as that of the motor unit, then the motor will turn the same speed as pump unit, and any speed lower than this can be obtained on motor shaft by merely reducing the angularity of the angle box. So these are some of the things about this is how the Jani hydrostatic drive is working. Now we'll see about something more on the propeller shaft and the constant velocity joint now. Now let's see about the constant velocity joint. The constant velocity joint is used at front wheel drive or all wheel steer drive with independent suspension. That is, you know that the if you take LCV or light commercial vehicle or heavy commercial vehicles, the power is transmitted to the rear wheel. So rear wheel is not tilting, not turning, tilting, right, or not steered. So for those types of vehicles, the constant velocity joint is not required. But the constant velocity joint is required only for the cars, because the car is a front wheel driven most of the cases, mostly. So in the front wheel drive means, you know that front wheel power should be transmitted. Power should be transmitted at the same time. It should what I could say, it should tilt also. So in this type of joint, the shaft rotates at the same speed throughout its revolution of at any degree of fluctuation, because the constant velocity is a must for all the front wheel driven vehicle. That's what I said just before, because it is constant velocity is not obtained, then there will be a fluctuation within one rotation of the shaft. You know that suppose constant joint is not there in the front wheel, means the wheels has tire. So constant joint is not there means there is a isolation, the angular velocity fluctuation within one rotation, that will create unnecessary wear and tear or excess wear and tear of the tire or the wheel. So it is ultimately loss for us actually. That shouldn't happen. That is why the constant velocity joint is must, especially for the front wheel driven vehicle, because it is steered. Not only that, there is another type of special vehicle called all wheel steering. If it is all wheel steer vehicle, then all the four wheels it should have constant velocity joint. Now we'll see the different types of constant velocity joint. They are Tracta constant velocity joint, Bendix Weiss constant velocity joint, Zappa constant velocity joints. In that, we'll see about the Zappa constant velocity joint in detail now. The diagram shows the Zappa constant velocity joint. So this is the input shaft and this is the output shaft. In this output shaft, the wheel is connected. The tire, wheel, everything is connected, attached here. Okay. Now the basic geometrical concept of this trigonometric or the geometric concept of this one is, now you see this is the axis of this input shaft. This is the axis line of this shaft. It is at some angle. If both the axes are collinear, that means vehicle is in going in a straight direction. In that particular case, of course, we don't require any joint, Zappa constant velocity joint or any constant velocity joint at all. The constant velocity joint play a role only when the wheel is tilted. Now, as per this diagram, the wheel is tilted now. As per this diagram, the wheel is tilted. When the wheel is tilted, then it should have one, it should satisfy one condition. For that, you see, there is part E. Part E is called the cage. The cage consisting number of balls in a plane. Okay, so number of balls in a plane. This ball plane should bisect the angle of axis of input shaft and output shaft. If it is happens, then we achieve the constant velocity, constant velocity actually. So that is the basic geometrical principle. Then how it is affected? For that, there is another part called G. There is a pin. The pin controls and set the bisecting of the cage and the wheel, the ball plane. Here the ball plane, one end of the ball, the pin, this pin is fitted in the input shaft. Then another end of the pin is connected with the output shaft. At the in between, at the middle, not at the middle, in the 1:2 ratio, this it is hinged with the cage. Because of this geometry, this particular setup is able to keep the cage ball plane such that it is bisecting the total angle between the wheel axis, the input axis, input shaft axis versus with the output shaft axis. So this is how the constant velocity joint is fixed and functioning. Only thing is it is bisected, then only we achieve the constant velocity joint. The best example is take for example a compass. Some costly compass, if you move the two legs, the knob will be always at the middle. That means always bisecting the angle. So that is how that is something but the bisecting the angle now. That may be the simple or the best example for the this Zappa constant velocity joint. Now we'll see one more thing about the propeller shaft now. This setup is the example for the entire vehicle has the propeller shaft, leaf spring, the entire rear axle set. Now here, now you see the propeller shaft is inclined, and because of the inclination, angular velocity is lost. For to compensate that, there is one UJ here, universal joint here, another universal joint here. So if we keep two universal joints, then the variation in the angular velocity is compensated. That is number one. Number two, the vehicle is moving. The road is not a smooth one. It is having twists and bumps, and it is prone for vibration. The entire axle set will move up and down. So because of that, the propeller shaft will swing this way about this as the hinge. So this will be elongating and contracting because of the up and down motion. For that only we provide the sliding joint. That is number one. Number two, you see the leaf spring arrangement. One end of the leaf spring is pinned here rigidly with maybe not rigidly. This bracket is rigidly fixed with the chassis frame. This is pinned here. The another thing is pinned with the help of a shackle, not directly pinned. Why? Because again, when it moves up and down, because of the load and vibrations, the leaf spring curvature varying. That means the effective distance between the two ends, will be changing, elongating and contracting. Okay, so length, if the leaf spring gets flattened, the length is increasing. If it goes down, the length will be reducing. To give the allowance for that, we provide the shackle. So shackle will be swinging this way, that way. So then that will allow the leaf spring to either to flatten or to curve more. So then the ride and the entire working of the whole setup will be perfect. Otherwise, that will create an unnecessary problem. That is number one. Number two, why the shackle is provided at the rear? Why not at the front? It should be provided in the rear because you see the propeller shaft swinging about this as center this way. As per this setup in the shackle, this leaf spring will be swinging about this pin this way. So when both the swinging action this way, that will be really good and correct geometrically. Otherwise, you see, for example, instead of keeping the shackle here, if you keep the shackle here, then this leaf spring will be swinging about this pin this way. So this will be in one direction, the swinging of propeller shaft in the opposite direction. So then one will not allow the other to swing or expand or contract. So that will be a problem. So that is why we keep the shackle at the rear but not at the front. You may ask another question: why can't we keep one shackle here, other shackle here? We should not, because if we keep another shackle here, then the rigidness or the rigidity or the rigidness of this leaf spring and the entire setup will be lost. The entire thing will be will become so flexible. So then it will not be so rigid. That will create unnecessary vibration. Even for you won't get a smooth ride at all. So that is another point related to this one. So hope in this video you saw about you learnt about three things. That is, one is hydrostatic drive, the Jani hydrostatic drive system you saw. The other one is the constant velocity joint, the importance of the constant velocity joint. The constant velocity joint is very important for the front wheel driven vehicles, because power is fed to this front wheel. At the same time, it has to be steered also, tilted also. So since both power and tilting should happen, that needs the constant velocity joint. Then propeller shaft, here we saw about how the propeller shaft is swinging and how to cushion, how to give the clearance and allowances, and what is the importance of the shackle, why we should keep the shackle at the rear but not in the front. So many things we have seen in this video. Maybe in the following videos we'll be seeing about particulars about the automatic transmission still further. Thank you.